In sports, Philippine tennis sensation Alex Eala has bowed out of the Indian Wells tournament. She lost in the round of 16 to Czech foe Linda Noskova in straight sets, 6-2, 6-0. And despite the loss, the 20-year-old Eala is expected to reach a new career high in the world ranking.
When the match ended at Indian Wells, the result itself was not the shocking part. What happened next was, instead of quietly applauding and heading for the exits, the crowd stayed frozen in place while the energy inside the stadium kept rising. Phones appeared everywhere, social media started lighting up, and the internet began talking about one player who had not even won the match. How did Alex Eala turn a loss into the most unforgettable moment of the night?
Match. Yeah, I think she played super well. I don't think I was able to find my groove, and nothing clicked for me in today's match. Yeah.
A lot different facing Linda tonight than the juniors, I suppose. It make it difficult to prepare, given that your information is kind of outdated, or?
No, this is the second time I've ever played her.
If you enjoy following Alex Eala's journey as much as we do, make sure you subscribe and stay with us for the next chapter. For most athletes, a loss at a major tournament fades into the background within minutes. The cameras follow the winner, the headlines move on, and the defeated player quietly disappears into the locker room to regroup.
So we're just seeing Alex Eala's run end in the fourth round against Linda Noskova. Noskova just played so well and served so well in that match. Let's go have a look at what happened during the match and also what this means for Eala, because it's not all bad for Eala just because she lost this match. So taking a look at the stats to start with, you can see they're 6-2, 6-love to Noskova in less than an hour. But have a look at the serving stats. 7 aces, 78% of first serve points won, but 81% of second serve points won. So her second serve was also so good against Eala. Eala wasn't able to attack it. She only lost the 3 points on the second serve. And also the break point saved. There was only one break point against Noskova's serve.
Yet what unfolded at Indian Wells felt different from the very beginning. Because even in defeat, Alex Eala managed to create a moment that fans simply could not ignore. The match itself had already carried plenty of intrigue before the first ball was struck.
I'd be a fool to base it off my information playing her at 13. I mean, when she was 13. So, but you know, the preparation was similar to my other matches. It's similar to if I've never played her before, and I haven't in the professional circuit. Yeah.
Eala arrived at Indian Wells with momentum building around her name, and tennis followers were beginning to notice that the young Filipina was no longer just a promising prospect. She was starting to look like a genuine threat, capable of challenging some of the sport's established stars.
Is what I like to call the separation of church and state from Alex Eala. It's as if that when she goes to practices and matches, she has a way to flip a switch to separate her mentality from, okay, I am training, I'm playing tennis, versus, okay, I'm going to appease to the crowd and I'm going to play to the crowd. When I watched her go into one of her practices, you know, she didn't even acknowledge the crowd. But again, that's not a negative at all. And once she stepped out of that, you know, court, I saw her face kind of flip a switch as if, okay, now it's time for me to address these audiences. There is a need to separate church and state for her.
That belief did not come out of nowhere. Just days earlier, Eala had stunned the tennis world by defeating Gauff for the very first time. Considering that Gauff sits comfortably among the top players in the world and carries the weight of a Grand Slam champion, the victory sent a clear message across the tour. Alex Eala was no longer knocking on the door of the elite level. She was beginning to walk straight through it. The win over Gauff electrified fans who had been watching Eala's progress for years, and it instantly raised expectations for games. It was clear that the match would test Eala in ways that would reveal exactly where she currently stood in her rapid development. Noskova brought heavy hitting and relentless pressure from the baseline, forcing Eala to defend deep into rallies and search for opportunities to turn defense into attack. The exchanges were fast, intense, and often razor-thin, with both players showing flashes of the talent that has made them two of the most talked-about young names in women's tennis. Although Eala fought hard throughout the contest, Noskova managed to maintain the edge when it mattered most. The Czech player found key points at critical moments, gradually building a lead that Eala could not quite erase despite several determined attempts to shift the momentum.
I really didn't want to win this way, but this is still a really big moment for me to be able to play on Stadium 1 of Indian Wells and against such a great competitor. I'm really grateful to be here and I'm super happy. Yeah.
Eventually, the final point arrived, and with it, the reality that Eala's run at Indian Wells had come to an end. What happened next, however, became far more memorable than the result itself. Instead of showing frustration or searching for excuses, Eala walked to the net with composure and respect, congratulating Noskova with the calm professionalism that has become a signature part of her personality on the court. There was no visible disappointment directed outward, no dramatic reaction, and certainly no attempt to explain the loss away. As the players packed their bags and prepared to leave the court, the applause inside the stadium began to grow. It was not the routine courtesy applause that usually accompanies the end of a match. This felt more like a collective recognition of what people had just witnessed over the past several days. Eala might have lost the match, but she had gained something far more powerful in the process: the admiration of a rapidly expanding global fan base. Within minutes, clips from the match and the post-match scenes started circulating across social media platforms. Fans praised Eala's attitude, her composure, and the way she carried herself even in defeat. Many pointed out that the maturity she displayed felt remarkable for a player still early in her professional journey.
That was just a flawless performance from her on the serving, and obviously on the ground strokes as well. But the forehand was going crazy, and really just didn't let the crowd get into it. The crowd was so quiet, you just didn't even realize there was people watching at times because Noskova was just quieting them down with her ground strokes in her game. So that happens sometimes. We've seen that with Eala. It's not all bad. Career high ranking still for Eala. Made the 4th round of Indian Wells. That's not nothing. And of course, going to Miami is going to be really interesting to see how she deals with that pressure and that expectation, and also defending points for the first time in her career.
What made the moment even more meaningful was the way Eala addressed the fans afterward. Instead of disappearing into the locker room as quickly as possible, she took the time to acknowledge the crowd that had supported her throughout the tournament. With a warm smile and visible gratitude, she thanked the fans for their encouragement and energy. That simple gesture created a powerful connection, and Eala's character was on full display. For many observers, the way she handled the loss reinforced the idea that her rise in tennis is built on far more than just talent. She carries herself with a level of maturity that suggests she understands the long journey ahead and the patience required to reach the very top. That perspective is especially important in a sport as demanding as tennis, where success rarely arrives overnight, and even the greatest players experience setbacks along the way. If anything, Eala's performance at Indian Wells served as another important step in her development, rather than a disappointing ending. After all, beating Coco Gauff earlier in the tournament was a milestone that few young players can claim. Gauff currently holds a place among the top players in the world, and defeating someone of that caliber requires both skill and belief.
And one of the people that I was most excited to see was Alexandra Eala, the 20-year-old sensation from the Philippines. And I got to watch the match she played before she faced Coco Gauff. Let me show you the final point. The Filipino fan energy, it was electrifying. It definitely helped Eala persevere through the night. And one of the reasons that I really wanted to see her match was that I wanted to feel the Filipino crowd. I was so looking forward to being part of this Filipino fan energy because it's one of the things that's most talked about in what Alexandra Eala brings to the game. But that outcall?
For Eala, that victory proved that she has the tools to compete with the sport's elite. Yet what followed against Noskova also revealed the areas where growth will continue to happen. The match offered valuable lessons about managing pressure, maintaining consistency during crucial moments, and adapting to opponents who bring relentless power to the court. These are the experiences that shape great players over time. When Eala reflected on the loss afterward, she did not focus on frustration or regret. Instead, she emphasized the positives, acknowledging that every match provides an opportunity to learn and improve. That mindset has become one of her most defining strengths. the tennis world is beginning to notice that Alex Eala is improving at a steady and impressive pace. Her movement around the court has become sharper, her shot selection more confident, and her ability to handle high-pressure moments continues to evolve. Indian Wells provided another glimpse of that progression. Even during the match against Noskova, there were moments when Eala's creativity and resilience forced her opponent to dig deep. Several rallies showcased the kind of tactical awareness that can frustrate even the most aggressive players.
In the midst of all of this competition, have you developed any best friends on tour?
I think this year one of my resolutions, and lately even before that, was to try to be more social and kind of like come out of my shell a little bit. And I'm happy to say that I've built a lot of really great friendships on tour. This week I played with Eva Jovic. She's
beautiful.
Yeah, so we're really good friends. She's super fun. One of my best friends, not just on tour but in life, is Zainab. I've grown really close with her. Victoria Mboko is also, Eva Liz, and also the half Filipinas on tour.
Those flashes reminded fans why so many people believe Eala's future in the sport could be incredibly bright. The defeat may have ended her run at the tournament, but it did not erase the excitement that had been building around her name. If anything, the reaction from fans suggested that her popularity had actually grown. Across social media, tennis supporters from different countries shared messages praising her sportsmanship and determination. Many highlighted the fact that she never appeared rattled or discouraged despite facing a tough opponent. Others focused on the larger picture, pointing out that a young player who can defeat a top-ranked star and then respond to a loss with humility is clearly developing the mental strength required for long-term success. That perspective reflects something important about the journey Alex Eala is currently navigating. Professional tennis is foundation. Her calm reaction after the match suggested that she understands how much progress she has already made and how much potential still lies ahead. Instead of dwelling on the defeat, she looked forward to the next opportunity. That attitude is precisely why so many fans believe this story is only getting started. The path toward becoming one of the sport's elite competitors is rarely smooth, and every future champion experiences moments where growth comes through difficult matches rather than easy victories.
Has won 7, lost 4, so I'm interested if Alex can take anything out of those 4 defeats to help her to victory tonight. In those 4 defeats to Gracheva, Sinew Wong, Castella, Noskova has lost her serve more times than her opponent. So Alex has to hold serve more times than Noskova tonight.
And just quickly tell us about the weather. The weather's going to...
Indian Wells may eventually be remembered as one of those defining steps for Alex Eala. The tournament showcased her ability to defeat a top player, compete fearlessly against another rising star, and carry herself with grace regardless of the outcome. Those qualities do not just create highlights, they build legacies. As the crowd gradually filtered out of the stadium that evening, one thing was clear. The headlines might record that Linda Noskova won the match, but the lasting impression belonged to Alex Eala. Fans had witnessed a young athlete who refused to hide after a loss and instead chose to stand tall, thank the people who supported her, and move forward with confidence. Moments like that often become the turning points in a career. Because sometimes the real victory in sports is not measured by the final score, but by the way an athlete responds when things do not go their way. And if the reaction from fans is any indication, many people around the world will be watching closely as that journey continues. And that journey, if the last few days at Indian Wells revealed anything, is accelerating faster than most people expected. When Alex Eala first arrived on the professional circuit, she was often introduced as a talented junior champion with long-term potential. Analysts described her as someone to watch in the future, a player who might eventually develop into a serious contender if everything aligned the right way.
I know you were mostly supporting Alex, but I have to say it is great to be on a crowded court. I've played this tournament for many years, and to see the stadium full, it means a lot. And also, like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I really appreciate I think it's great. I know sometimes it's tough when you're playing against a home crowd, but I think that it's great for the sport. So keep being enthusiastic and keep rooting for your player. Yeah.
What Indian Wells showed, however, is that the timeline might be moving forward much faster than predicted. Because beating a player of Coco Gauff's caliber is not the kind of result that happens by accident. It requires courage, composure, and the belief that you belong on the same court with one of the most recognized names in the sport. Eala did not approach that match like a player hoping for a miracle. She approached it like a competitor ready to test herself against one of the best. That confidence is beginning to define her game. Against Gauff, Eala demonstrated the kind of controlled aggression that can disrupt even elite opponents. She stayed patient during long rallies, picked the right moments to attack, and refused to let the atmosphere of the match overwhelm her. By the time the final point was played, the message had already spread across the tennis world that something special might be unfolding. Momentum can be fragile, and every match presents a completely new challenge. Noskova entered the contest with her own confidence, her own ambitions, and a style of play capable of pushing anyone to their limits. Eala fought with determination throughout the match, but Noskova's consistency and power ultimately made the difference.
A few times I have seen Alex Eala just go for her shoulder. I'm not saying that she's lost because of a shoulder injury, but it just seems to maybe have been a bit of an issue in the second set. By the way, 3 match points now for Linda Noskova on her serve after some unreturned serves. Eala not making any hay, and she's down, even if she's not quite out yet, although it is likely to be any moment because it's 3 match points here for Linda Noskova. 6-2, 5-love, 40-love. Where are you going to go with this serve? Into the net on the first serve.
Still, what happened after the match may have been even more meaningful for Eala's long-term reputation. Her response to defeat reflected the mindset of a player who understands that a single match never defines an entire career. Instead of appearing discouraged, she looked composed and thoughtful, acknowledging the experience for what it was, another opportunity to grow. That perspective is rare for athletes at any age, and it becomes especially impressive when displayed by someone still early in their professional journey. Eala's message to her supporters carried the same spirit. Supporters praised her humility, her attitude, and the way she continues to improve against some of the toughest competition in the sport. Many pointed out that players who handle defeat with grace often develop the resilience necessary to achieve far greater success later on. If that pattern holds true, Indian Wells might not be remembered as the place where Alex Eala's run ended. It might be remembered as the place where the world truly began paying attention.